Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Tonight we'll start Kitab Salat al-Eidain, the 8th book of the book, which is regarding the two Eids. Regarding the two Eids. The rulings of the two Eids, the manners, the etiquette, the things of which the ulama agree, the things of which the ulama differ and disagree, what aqidah is surrounded or surrounds the Eidain, what behavior is a necessity of attending or knowing about the Eidain, what happened, and those are the general points. Then what's the ruling on attending the Eidain? Is it sunnah? Is it mandatory? Do women have to go? Are women allowed to go? Etc. The Eidain, like any other aspect or any other chapter, is very important. And that's because the Eidain merges two things together, two different worlds together. There's the world of religious devotion, and then there's the world of tradition and custom. Tradition and custom. So from one aspect, we look at the concept of a holiday, or break, or a festive day, being traditional, customary. And from another aspect, we say that a holiday or break or festive day is religious. It's connected to and is based upon religious devotion. Anyone who looks into the different holidays and festivals of mankind from east to west, north to south, you can see this. You can see that it is a secular holiday, but it's based off of a religious belief or religious practice. Or it is a religious practice and a religious belief that is connected to secular aspects of life. So in Islam, when it comes to an Eid, is the Eid only based off of what's in the Quran and Hadith? Or is it allowed for a person to have a third or fourth or fifth Eid because it's only tradition? It's only a custom. It isn't religious devotion. Is that true? Is that correct? Can we say that? Is there such thing as a national day or Independence Day? Or can we celebrate a month? Can we call this the month of this and the month of that? Black History Month, is that permissible to celebrate? If you're not going to celebrate, is it permissible to talk about, to study, to teach your kids about, teaching your children about, or taking your children to see the fireworks on the 4th of July, the day in which the Americans won their freedom and became independent and were no longer a colony of England or Britain? Is that permissible? Can we recognize that day? Can I buy my mother a bouquet? Can I buy her some flowers on Mother's Day, or my father something on Father's Day? Is that a bid'ah? Or there's only Eid Fitr and Eid Adha? When I'm in Saudi Arabia, can I celebrate Saudi National Day? Is that permissible to celebrate? What is the fatwa on that? Different ins and outs of the Eidain. Jumu'ah. Is Jumu'ah an Eid? And if it is an Eid, then what are we to do on that day? Is it permissible to take off on Friday? Is it recommended not to work on Friday? Or should we work on Friday, not being like the Jews and the Christians who take off on their religious days, such as Saturday or Sunday? So all of these different issues all pertain to Al-Eidain. Al-Eidain. And oftentimes there are many issues that are crystal clear. And oftentimes there are other issues which aren't so clear, aren't so crystal clear. When is it imitating the kuffar? When is it having the permissible things in the dunya until proven to be impermissible? When is it imitating the kuffar by speaking a different language other than the Arabic language? Is there a such thing as Arab power in Islam? Or Arab superiority in Islam? Or Arab dominance in Islam? Is that a such thing in the deen? In which if you talk another language other than the Arabic language, it's haram and you're imitating the kuffar. What if I'm not an Arab? What if I don't speak Arabic? Or food, or dress, or a holiday? Alright, so the different ins and outs with regards to what the ulama of the past said, regarding imitating the non-Muslims, with regards to having 2 Eids or 3 with Jum'ah, with regards to making a new Eid, so on and so forth. So on and so forth. Having a baby shower. Perfect example. Is that permissible? One brother came to me, he asked me about a baby shower. I told him what I thought. I told him what I knew, but obviously it was just a little bit limited. He took it, and the next thing you know, I heard from a 3rd and a 4th and a 5th and a 6th. Muhammad ibn Munir says that baby showers are permissible. Muhammad ibn Munir said that it's not haram to have a baby shower, so on and so forth. So on and so forth. What is a baby shower? And if they have something in Arabic with that name or title in Egypt, that doesn't mean that's what we're talking about in America. Or so on and so forth. So the concept of an Eid, the celebration. Or another example, brother asked me in Philadelphia. Every year, if I'm not mistaken, many masjids in Philadelphia, they get together and they have a united fajr. All make fajr in one masjid, I think they have a breakfast, maybe some talks, so on and so forth. Brother said, I'm not going to this. This is bid'ah. He says, this is an Eid. So I told him, I said, well, maybe it isn't. You know, perhaps someone, he said, well, you know, it's something which is repeated every year. And the word Eid, I said, have a great day. If you know the answer, alhamdulillah, do not waste my time. My time is limited. Further, there's no need for you to ask me if your cup is what? Spilling over. You're wasting my time and also wasting yours. And maybe you're right, maybe I'm wrong. So when we talk about having a holiday, quote unquote, or making something on our calendars, another manifestation I've done up here, this is specifically you, is having a fundraiser on the 27th night, Ramadan, every single year. From one aspect, that's a what? That's an Eid. Because it's something that reoccurs. It's something that you appoint and you fix out. Is that an Eid? Is that permissible to say that? Is that valid to say that? Is that a bid'ah? So this situation becomes very sticky of what is and what isn't permissible with regards to appointing a day for some type of get-together or some type of festivity, so on and so forth. Now, having a graduation party. And it never stops. Once you say that anything besides the 2 Eids is a bid'ah, it never what?
Never stops.
Never stops. And once you say that everything is permissible, because it's not religious devotion, it's just custom and tradition, then it never ever what?
Stops.
So you keep going and you just do everything. So there has to be a balance. There has to be a proper fiqh. There has to be a proper fiqh. Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah and many others, but specifically Shaykh Islam in his book, Iqtida Sirat al-Mustaqim, he spent a great deal of time and put forth a great deal of effort and breaking down and making foundations and branching off of the issue of imitating the non-Muslims, the polytheists, and the harm of it, and the permissibility of it, and what it leads to, and what happens, what takes place. And from the manifestations of that is the Eid, the shi'ar, the slogan of a people. The distinguishing feature of a people is their holiday, what they celebrate, right? You want to learn about American culture, you learn about Christmas. We've done a few khutbahs on this as well, if I'm not mistaken. I think we did one on Christmas, the day of Mithra, the ancient Greek or Roman goddess that used to worship. Hallows Eve, Halloween, Thanksgiving, so on and so forth. And the religious devotion that is, or that these holidays are based upon, whether people know about it or not. And many things remain to this day. Even though it become totally secular, but it's still religious. Alright? And where does the tradition come from of giving out gifts and extra money or bonuses? Good Christian what? Charity. The way of Christ is to give. And we give on his birthday. This is what the people are practicing to this day, whether they're saying that or not. Alright? Khairan, inshallah. And there are many, many, many other examples and manifestations of the concept of the Eid in Islam and outside of Islam. So inshallah ta'ala, you read those books, go back to those lectures, or any other beneficial sources you come across with regards to the proper or the improper understanding of what? The Eid in Islam. The proper or improper understanding of the Eids in Islam. Let alone just studying this chapter without the deep philosophical stuff. Just the ahkam of Eidain. The rulings of the 2 Eids. Do you have to make a ghusl? Should you make a ghusl? Is there a hadith that says that you can make a ghusl? Put it on your best clothes. What hijab can or cannot wear, right? Can you pray the Eid inside of a building? Should it be outside even if it's cold? How long should the khutbah be? Is there a minbar for the Eid? Right? What should the Eid be about? What is the ruling on having women sitting on one side and then on the other, women sitting in the front and the back? Free mixing. What happened? The different rulings, the rulings of what? Of the Eid day. Do you have to go to Eid or is it just recommended to go? Alright? What happened? What happened? Right. So, Hadith 505, the author says, Hadith ibn Abbas, وَالْمَعْمَا قَالَ شَهِدْتُ الْفِطْرَةِ مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وأبي بكر وعمر وعثمان رضي الله عنهم يصلونها قبل الخطبة ثم يخطب بعده. خرج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كأني أنظر إليه حين يجلس بيده ثم أقبل يشقهم حتى جاء النساء معه بلال فقال يا أيها النبي إذا جاءك المؤمنات يبايعنك الآية. ثم قال حين فرغ منها أنتن على ذلك؟ فقالت امرأة واحدة منهن لم يجبه غيرها نعم. قال فتصدقن فبسط بلال ثوبه ثم قال هلم لكن فداء أبي وأمي. قال لكن فداء أبي وأمي فليلقين الفتخ والخواتيم في ثوب بلال. Hadith number 505 is narrated by Ibn Abbas. I attended with the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman, the Eid al-Fitr prayers. They used to offer the prayer before the khutbah, and then they used to deliver the khutbah afterwards. Once the Prophet ﷺ came out, as if I were just observing him, waving to sit the people down, waving to the people to sit down. He, then accompanied by Bilal, came crossing the road till he reached the women. He recited the following verse, O Prophet, when believing women come to you to give you the bay'ah, to the end of the verse. After finishing the recitation, he said, O ladies, are you fulfilling your covenant? None except one woman said, yes. The Prophet ﷺ said, then give alms. Bilal spread his garment and said, keep on giving alms. Let my father and mother sacrifice their lives for you. So the ladies kept on putting their fataks, big rings, and other kinds of rings in Bilal's garment, and other types of rings in Bilal's garment. Right. So Hadith 505 is basically showing us that in our Islam there is something called Salat al-Eid. It is legislated, it's legitimate, and no scholar or madhab or sheikh can come, or any politician or any leader of a country, prime minister or king, and say there's no more Eid in Islam. That was only for the Prophet, or Eid is of Arab custom, etc. Eid is mashru'. فيه مشروعية العيد. فيه مشروعية صلاة العيد. فيه مشروعية خطبة العيد. This hadith proves the most important lesson is the legality of the khutbah and the salah of Eid, and that is from the deen. So he asked a question: what is the proof that Salat al-Eid is from the religion of Islam? Perhaps you were right, because I prayed it myself. Many were right, in my country we pray Eid. Many were right, I read a fatwa. Many were right, because it only makes sense. Jews and Christians have Christmas and Halloween, and so the dalil is what? Narrated for them. The Prophet ﷺ did the Eid. Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman as well. You know what I'm saying? This is the dalil that there is Eid in Islam. The prayer and the actual khutbah. That's the main rule. And it's the first basic thing that you would give if you were asked for proof. What's the proof that Eid is from the deen? If you were interviewed by a non-Muslim reporter, why are you Muslims out here today? What is this? Is this a part of your religion, or are you just imitating people from the Middle East? Say, no, this is religious devotion. Our Prophet legislated this for us. He mandated this. His khulafa, his caliphs after him, they did the same as well. No? So that's the main lesson from Hadith 505, is the legality and the legitimacy of Salat al-Eid. And then many other fawaid that we take in this hadith as well. From them is, now Abdullah ibn Abbas is the one who's narrating this hadith. Was Ibn Abbas there for every single Eid? When was the Eid legislated? In Mecca or only in Medina? Any question? Was it in Mecca or only in Medina? Secondly, Was Ibn Abbas there? How old was he when the Prophet prayed the Eid for the first time? Was he old enough to be there, to see it, to remember it? Or is he narrating from someone else? You know, Ibn Abbas was a very young companion. And when the Prophet ﷺ was about to leave this hayat al-dunya, he wasn't that old, barely in puberty. So that's an issue in itself. With regards to Ibn Abbas, making irsal from the other Sahaba. Right, moving forward. This hadith also shows us that the Eid, as I just said, is not specific to Zaman al-Nubuwa. Laysa khasan bi Zaman al-Nubuwa. It isn't specific to the Prophet's time. Abu Bakr did it afterwards, as well as Umar, as well as Uthman. The cream of the crop of the Sahaba, they all did it. They were all leaders. And the benefit of studying the Athar al-Mawqufa is to learn that something is not specific to the time of prophecy, where someone may come and claim. This was only for the Prophet to do. This was only for the Prophet to say. Are we understanding this? So when the Khalifa does it, and the Prophet also did it, it proves that it was not abrogated anymore. It was no longer abrogated. It wasn't abrogated. That it was not what? Abrogated. Because someone could claim that something was only specific to the Prophet ﷺ. An example of this is the marriage of Aisha at a young age. Whether the Prophet married her at 6, 9, or 18. That was him. She was young. And some of the ulama of Islam say that was only for the Messenger of Allah. No one else could marry a woman at that young age. Other scholars say no, it isn't specific to the Prophet. There's no specific dalil for that. The first scholar can come and say, well, where is the proof that the Khulafa or any of the leaders of the Muslims did it afterwards? You understand this? And one could claim that that was specific to the Prophet. But if we have Abu Bakr and this and that, and then you say, what? It's clearly proven? It wasn't specific to the Messenger of Allah. And it's very important, especially in 2019, in which the orthodox understanding and practice of Islam is under attack from so many different fronts. And everyone's a scholar of Islam for CNN doing an interview saying what is and what isn't Islam. Right. Then it says here, كأني أنظر إليه حين يجلس بيده ثم أقبل بالشقه. Ibn Abbas is mentioning what he saw, what he observed, as if I was looking at the Prophet when he actually was doing it. This hadith also shows us that women are important in Islam. And women are not to be ignored and abandoned in Islam, like many cultures do. Many cultures, unfortunately, cultures that have been Muslim, or people who have been practicing this culture that have been Muslim for years, many years. But they've strayed. And they have a great deal of ignorance, and a great deal of innovation, and a great deal of, they're just remote from the pure teachings of the Sunnah, in which women have no importance except to marry and to have children and raise children. That's it. And they're never taught, they're never educated, they're never reminded, they're never given anything special. That's wrong. And this is the proof to prove it. The Prophet said something, he spoke to everyone, then he went on and spoke to the what? To the Nisa. This hadith also shows us the virtue of Bilal radiallahu anhu. It proves the virtue of Bilal, and that Bilal was trustworthy, whereas he was the one who accompanied the Prophet to speak to the women. This hadith also goes to show us how the Quran is interpreted by the Sunnah. فيه تفسير القرآن بالحديث. How the Quran was interpreted by the hadiths. And it also goes to show us is that the Quran was only sent down to be implemented and to be acted upon, to be thought about, to be pondered over, and was not sent down to be placed on walls or on plaques or car stickers or doors. The Quran was not just sent down to be just recited and read and that's it, as the people want it to be today. The Prophet recited the verse and then he says, are you doing this? Will you fulfill this? Meaning, this is the theory of the Quran, this is the command of the Quran, now it must be doing what? It must be practiced. The Quran was not sent down just to be recited. It wasn't sent down just to be beautifully, read and no. It wasn't sent down. It was sent down for amal, for action. It was sent down for people to reflect, to ponder, and most importantly, to implement it. To implement the teachings of the Quran. And it's another modern day 2019 issue. We have the different museums, the different websites, all the different wonderful romantic things about the Quran and Islam. But where's the action? Where's the implementation? And if those non-Muslims only but knew what they're going to suffer, what they're going to suffer on the day of judgment for hearing about the Quran and its beauty and not implementing it. Being a Muslim is not an option, it's not a choice. Do I have to be a Muslim? Why can't I just keep my faith? It's not a choice. And that's because Allah has commanded you to submit to Him and to follow His messengers. So the Quran was not sent down just to be for people to realize it's beautiful and to reason why the Quran was sent down. This hadith also goes to show us the permissibility for a male to speak to a woman, regardless whether the Prophet was mahram for the women or not. That's an issue among the ulama of Islam. Clearly Bilal was there and he heard their voices. And there was interaction and dialogue between them, back and forth. So this hadith shows that the voice of a woman is not an awrah. The voice of a woman is not an awrah. And it's permissible for a non-mahram man to speak to a non-mahram woman if there is a need. It's not haram. This hadith also goes to show us the importance of giving sadaqah, giving charity. And also this hadith shows the obligation of giving charity when there's a need and when there's a command. This hadith also goes to show us, once again, the virtue of Bilal, where he said, give. He told Halumma. He says, let my father and mother sacrifice their lives for you. Tayyib. This also goes to show us that a woman is allowed to give charity without her husband's permission. A woman is allowed to give charity without her husband's permission. Is that the final say-so on the issue or the other hadiths? We're not discussing them right now. We're just taking it directly from this hadith. Is that a woman can give charity without the permission of her husband. This hadith also shows the permissibility of wearing rings for women and wearing earrings. Earrings and rings. Permissible for women to wear. And there's no specific metal or style that is mentioned. Rings and earrings. And this hadith also shows that a woman is allowed to wear circular gold. Al-dhahab al-muhallaq. And it shows that hadith that it's permissible to wear gold in a circular form is weak. Hadiths are weak. And if they're not weak, then they're abrogated. And if they're not abrogated, then they're makhsusa. Bitilkum al-hadith. You know what I'm talking about? You've heard the hadiths and the argument that a woman cannot wear gold that's in a full circle. It has to be cut open. This hadith shows that that's not the case. Whereas a khatam is a total what? It's a circle. And that's a long discussion among the ulama as well. It also goes to show that giving charity is a manifestation of the iman. It's a manifestation of faith that you actually give. Hadith 506. حديث جابر بن عبد الله رضي الله عنه قال قام النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يوم الفطر فصلى فبدأ بالصلاة ثم خطب فلما فرغ نزل فأتى النساء فذكرهن ويتوكل على يد بلال وبلال باسط ثوبه يلقي فيه النساء الصدقة. 506 is narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah. The Prophet ﷺ stood up to offer the prayer of Eid al-Fitr. He first offered the salah and then delivered the khutbah. After finishing it, he got down and went towards the women and advised them while he was leaning on Bilal's hand. Bilal was spreading out his garment while the women were putting their arms. Similar to Hadith 505. Hadith 507. Hadith ibn Abbas وجابر رضي الله عنهم قال لم يكن يؤذن يوم الفطر ولا يوم الأضحى. 507 is narrated by Ibn Abbas and Jabir. There was no adhan for the salah of Eid al-Fitr or Eid al-Adha. Hadith 508. Hadith ibn Abbas عنهما أنه أرسل إلى ابن الزبير في أول ما يبويع له إنه لم يكن يؤذن بالصلاة يوم الفطر وإنما الخطبة بعد الصلاة. Hadith 508 is narrated that during the early days of Ibn Zubayr, Ibn Abbas has sent a message telling him that the adhan for the Eid prayer was never pronounced. in the lifetime of the Messenger of Allah, and that the khutbah used to be delivered after the salah. These two hadiths show is that there is no formal call for the Eid prayers. There's a time and a point and place, and that's it. There's no formal call. There's no formal call. And some of the ulama may say this proves, Allahu Alam, some may say this proves is that the Eid prayers are not mandatory, whereas there's no call to them. Some of them may say that this proves that there's no binding obligation of going because there's no call. Some of them may say that based off of that. Moving forward, these two hadiths also prove is that the khutbah should be after the salah and not vice versa. The salah first, then the khutbah. In opposition to Jumu'ah. In opposition to Jumu'ah. And this goes to show us is that it's not having a good intention or thinking and feeling, but it's about following the rules. Al-ittiba. Follow. It's not about what you think or what makes sense to you all of the time. This hadith also goes to show is that the companions were very concerned with spreading the sunnah and teaching it and propagating it. It also goes to show that hadiths were written down in the time of the companions. Just like there were hadiths that were written down in the time of the Prophet. And those who say the hadiths were not written down except for 250 years after the Prophet's death, they are terrible liars. Not mistaken liars. It's totally inaccurate historically. And all of that is based off of the lies of Goldziher and Scott, those early Orientalists. Only God knows what was in their hearts of hatred for Islam. Maybe it was the opposite. Maybe Goldziher loved Islam, but he was too scared to accept it. Or maybe he did become a Muslim, but he didn't manifest it. Allahu Alam. Whereas he went among the Muslims and studied the religion and prayed with the Muslims. And he said many things about Islam, how he felt connected to God when he prayed with the Muslims. And he bowed his head down on the floor with the Muslims. He was a Jew from Hungary. Obviously, we know what happened when he went back to Hungary and what he wrote about Islam. And the poison and the evil and the malicious lies that he made against Islam. And every single Orientalist who came after him, who blindly followed him, is feeding off of his first study of Hadith and of Islam, of Goldziher, and then his disciple. And then from there, the Orientalists, some of them became better. And they realized that it's not about us loving Islam or being Muslims or Mohammedans, but this is a shameful act upon what? Academia. Wherever we are, Christians, Jews, atheists, if we call ourselves academics, we can't just keep spreading these lies. It's just not right to academia. It makes us look bad, which is a clear lie, major inaccuracy. We cannot represent this university or this college, and we just keep accepting this. And many of them left some of the early opinions and lies of Goldziher. But most people, 9 out of 10 today, follow what he laid down. And most colleges and people who study Islam formally, the teachings are based off of those. The teachings are based off of those. And we've seen this in the United States and Malaysia. People who have these polluted ideas and thoughts. We've seen this in MSAs in New York City with regards to Islam and Hadith and what the non-Muslims say about Islam. Unfortunately, people who never studied the Arabic language, people who never studied the Quran, people who don't even understand the concept of faith. Someone is an atheist. Reading Islamic sources in English, then criticizing Islam. There's no discussion that can be made. And the same applies to other religions. Faith. Sometimes you have to have faith to understand something, right? Or to accept something. So the hadiths were written down in the time of the Prophet and in the time of the companions. Were all of the hadiths written down? No. But it doesn't mean that it's not a must, as we said. We said that to the sister, right? And not in hand. No. Anything that's written down is authentic? Sister said no. Anything that's memorized by heart or passed down by old tradition, is it wrong and a lie? That's not true. There are many things in books which we all know are what? Lies. And there are many things that we memorize by heart which we all know are what? True. Just because something's on a piece of paper doesn't mean it's what? Authentic. And just because something is memorized by heart does not mean that it's a lie. Everyone understand this? So Ibn Abbas, he took this this ruling based off of the Sunnah, and he did what? He wrote it to him. So it goes to show that the Sunnah was written, and it also goes to show that murasala, correspondence by letter, that they wrote to each other, spreading and propagating what? The Sunnah. And also refutes and debunks the claim of another Orientalist, a Scottish one, James Robson, who claimed and said that the Sunnah was never important in the time of the Salaf Salih. The Sunnah only took importance and substance. It only became substantially important in the time of Shafi'i. When Shafi'i came, 20 years after the Prophet ﷺ, then the Muslims began to look at Quran and Hadith. But before Shafi'i was nothing, was just Quran or Amal al-Madinah. That's a lie. And this Hadith falsifies that claim. This Hadith does what? It falsifies that. He wrote him and he told him what the Messenger of Allah used to do, what was done in his time of watching the day of Salat Eid. And many other fawaid as well. I know Ibrahim al-Ta'ala, he says, هي أن الشافعي وجمهور أصحابه وجماهير العلماء سنة مؤكدة. وقال أبو سعيد الإسقرخي من الشافعية هي فرض كفاية. وقال أبو حنيفة هي واجبة. فإذا قلنا فرض كفاية فامتنع أهل موضع من إقامتها قوتلوا عليها كسائر فروض الكفاية. إذا قلنا أنها سنة لم يقاتلوا بتركها كسنة الظهر وغيرها، وقيل يقاتلون لأنها شعار ظاهر. قالوا وسمي إذا لعوده وتكرره، وقيل لعود السر لعود السرور فيه، وقيل تفاؤلا بعوده على من أدركه كما سميت القافلة حين خروجها تفاؤلا لكفورها سالمة وهو رجوعها وحقيقتها الراجحة. He says here that the Eid, according to Imam Shafi'i, and most Shafi'i scholars, not all of them, and also most of the ulama, the overwhelming majority of the ulama, is a recommended act of worship. Highly recommended. No, he says, most of the ulama who view that Salat al-Eid is not obligatory, but it's highly recommended. And what do we benefit from that? Is that it should not be left alone, it should not be abandoned. But if someone took that view, if he could not make the Eid, or it was too difficult, there will be no what? Sin upon it. But under any circumstance doesn't mean you learn that it's only sunnah mu'akkadah, so now I don't have to do it. No. The sunnah should be done, let alone sunnah mu'akkadah. Highly recommended, borderline, obligatory. Right, moving forward. It was one Shafi'i scholar who said that it's fard kifaya. Fard kifaya. And fard kifaya meaning that some Muslims have to do it, and not what?
Everyone.
Not all. And if everyone leaves it alone, then everyone is sinful. Abu Hanifa held the view that it was wajib. And we know that wajib and fard have two different meanings according to Abu Hanifa. Fard means something which is in the Quran, or something, one may say, reported by mutawatir hadith, and wajib being something which is just ahad. The other ulama said fard wajib were synonymous. Moving forward, he mentioned some issues here. So if we take the view that it's fard kifaya, in a city of Muslims, they refuse to do it, he says the narrative be fought upon that. Like all other things which are fard kifaya, which people say we're not doing, someone has to do it. And if a whole city or village or town or state of Muslims says we're not doing fard kifaya, that means they're just rejecting it. Whether they're rejecting it with their hearts or whether they're rejecting to do it. And they are to be what? Fought to implement it. You can't just leave it off like that. It's not that simple. Right, he mentions a few other issues pertaining to that. Then he mentions why it's called Eid, which is not. There's so much we can go far into the English language because it's already translated. Eid pertains to the word out, which is return. It returns and things like this. Like, no, we don't have no time here. It says, فيه دليل لمذهب العلماء كافة أن خطبة العيد بعد الصلاة. قال القاضي هذا هو المتفق عليه من مذاهب علماء الأمصار وأئمة الفتوى ولا خلاف بين أئمتهم فيه وفعل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم والخلفاء الراشدين بعده إلا ما روي أن عثمان في شطر خلافته الأخير قدم الخطبة لأنه رأى من الناس من تفوته الصلاة، وروي مثله عن عمر وليس بصحيح. وقيل إن أول من قدمها معاوية، وقيل مروان بالمدينة في خلافة معاوية، وقيل زياد بالبصرة في خلافة معاوية، وقيل فعله ابن الزهري في آخر أيامه. He then goes on to say that those hadiths that we previously read, proves is a dalil for the view of the ulama, is that the khutbah is supposed to be after the salah, never before the salah. And this is agreed upon by all of the scholars, he says. There are a few narrations from some of the Sahaba, such as was mentioned that Uthman radiallahu anhu, in the second half of his caliphate, he did the khutbah first. And he felt that the people that want to miss out on it, so he did the khutbah first. And there are other narrations, some of them aren't necessarily authentic, from other companions such as Umar and other tabi'een who did that as well. Some hold the view that Uthman wasn't the first to do it, but someone else later on did the khutbah first, then the what? Then the salah. Right? But the sunnah is for the what?
Salah first.
Salah, then the khutbah. Whoever stays, stays. Whoever leaves, leaves. You understand this? Inshallah. We'll stop here tonight. And we'll finish the rest of the fawaid that Nawawi mentions.